Time and Recovery by Marty McCafferty, performed by Dr. Frans Cronje. The first diver was a 45-year-old healthy female with reasonably good physical fitness. She had been certified for 5 years and had done 15 dives the previous year. She had no problems on the first day of a Caribbean dive vacation, but did report minor difficulties with her rental buoyancy compensating device. On the following day, she dived to 27 meters for 30 minutes and 10 meters for 30 minutes, using normal air and spending 90 minutes on the surface between the dives. During the second dive, she attempted to vent air from her BCD, but mistakenly pressed the inflator mechanism and made an uncontrolled ascent. She later reported feeling weak and unable to move her legs during the ascent. Upon reaching the surface, she lost consciousness. The crew immediately brought her on board the boat and administered oxygen with a demand mask. They recalled the divers who remained in the water and quickly proceeded to the dock. A local ambulance service had been contacted by radio and was waiting when they arrived. Upon arrival at the local hospital, the treating physician diagnosed arterial gas embolism, or AGE, and the diver was taken to the hyperbaric chamber. The elapsed time from the onset of symptoms to entering the chamber was 1 hour, during which the diver's supply of 100% oxygen was interrupted only twice for less than 5 minutes each time. The diver was treated on US Navy Treatment Table 6, or the long oxygen table. Within the first 20 minutes in the chamber at 18 meters, she regained consciousness. Her treatment was extended by 3 oxygen periods to approximately 6 hours, but her symptoms improved only slightly. Despite the treatment, she was unable to pass urine and needed a catheter. The next morning, she was treated again. Once again, an extended table 6 was used. Motor function in her legs did not return, but feeling and sensation did. She still required the catheter. In consultation with Dan, the decision was made to move her by air ambulance at sea level pressure for further treatment. Upon arrival in the United States, she was treated quite aggressively with multiple hyperbaric treatments, totaling 57 hours. Ultimately, she was discharged with slight weakness and numbness in her legs. After 3 months, she was able to urinate on her own, but she reported persistent abnormalities in the genital area. After a year of following this diver's progress, it was determined that the weakness, numbness, and dysfunction were likely to be permanent. The second diver was a 50-year-old male who'd been diving actively for 20 years. He was traveling on a liveaboard in a remote area. On the 4th day of his trip, he made 2 dives, the first to 41 meters for 37 minutes and the second to 27 meters for 47 minutes. He used air on both dives and spent 2 hours on the surface between them. During the second dive, the sea conditions changed. The waves became larger, causing the divers to move up and down vigorously during their safety stop at 5 meters. Within 5 minutes of boarding the boat, the diver began to complain of severe right shoulder pain. This quickly progressed to numbness and weakness. He became unable to stand or walk normally. The crew helped him to find a seat and began to evaluate him. He had impaired feeling and motor function in both legs and diminished strength and reduced sensation of the right arm. Oxygen was provided by a demand mask. The boat had a 2-hour supply of oxygen, but it would take 8 hours to the closest medical facility. Then there were complications. The island with the medical clinic had no chamber, so it was determined that the diver had to be evacuated to the United States. Unfortunately, the island's runway was not lit, making flights after sunset impossible. The boat was scheduled to make landfall at 10 p.m., so Dan arranged for an air ambulance to arrive on the island at sunrise, approximately 7:15 the next morning. The aircraft would be pressurized to sea level and transport the diver to the mainland. On the way to the island, the diver's strength and sensation in the right arm returned to normal. He was still unable to move his legs, but was beginning to sense pain in the left leg. He also became aware that he was unable to pass urine. The oxygen supply lasted the expected 2 hours, and he went without oxygen for 6 hours. The boat made landfall at 10:45 p.m. and the diver was transferred to the clinic in a personal vehicle belonging to one of the clinic staff. On examination, the diver had no strength in either leg, only painful sensation in the left leg and no sensation in the right. He required a catheter to pass urine. The doctor diagnosed acute neurological decompression sickness. He was kept on oxygen through the night with a drip to receive fluids. Because the clinic had limited oxygen supply, they could only provide 6 liters per minute instead of the recommended 10 to 15. The air ambulance arrived at 7:30 and then landed in the United States with the diver 3 hours later. Upon arrival, he was transferred by ambulance to the closest chamber, which was waiting since being notified by Dan the day before. He entered the chamber at 11 a.m. The elapsed time from the first onset of symptoms to entering the chamber was approximately 20 hours. The patient was treated on an extended table 6 and improved measurably. He received 4 additional table 6 treatments over the next 2 days and continued to improve. In the following days, a further 5 shorter treatments were used, and he was discharged with some residual loss of sensation in the legs, as well as sexual dysfunction and an inability to urinate. Within 1 month, the diver was able to pass urine on his own, and over the next 3 months, all the remaining symptoms cleared. These cases illustrate that decompression illness, which includes arterial gas embolism and decompression sickness, is not always predictable. It varies in terms of when and who suffers from it. It can also be difficult to predict the outcome. Generally speaking, decompression illness should always be treated as soon as possible. As these cases illustrate, though, prompt treatment does not always guarantee a positive outcome. In the same way, a delay does not guarantee a negative outcome. There are many factors that affect the ultimate result. However, the importance of administering oxygen and seeking definitive care cannot be overstated. So contact Dan early in the process to obtain the assistance and guidance which we can provide. Research is ongoing, but the ability to make dependable predictions about decompression illness remains elusive.